Did you know there is a whole festival dedicated to this marinated chicken skewer that is placed on Italian bread? Spiedie Fest in Binghamton, New York is no joke. I'll let my boy Rob give you the lowdown of what they are.
It's a tasty treat of marinated meat, charbroiled and fed on a slice of Italian bread. That's a Spiedie.
I think this is one of the greatest grilled chicken sandwiches out there. And today we're going to showcase Spiedies by first going over the two major marinades that most people know and kind of breaking them down before I take a crack at my own version that, in my opinion, leads to better browning, more flavor, and a nice acidic punch at the end. Also, I do like a couple of toppings on my sandwich, which does go against tradition, but let's break it down. So Spiedies are just cubed up meat of any kind that are soaked in an Italian seasoned marinade, typically for at least 24 hours, before being skewered and grilled to generate charring. And here's a blueprint of how they serve them. It's literally just tossing them on Italian bread. But why do people go crazy for these? Well, first, humans love those smoky compounds that attach to grilled meat, but more importantly, this one is about the signature marinade, which flavors the exterior of the meat, and that's really what people compete for each year at Spiedie Fest, where the Spiedie was invented.
With Spiedies, the legend is how you marinate your Spiedies. That's the key to a tasteful Spiedie. So these guys spend weeks and weeks and months right now preparing their marinade to get into the Spiedie cooking contest to see who is the king of Spiedies.
If you don't make your own Spiedie marinade, there are two big brands that everyone knows in the upstate New York area, and these are Salamidas or Lupos. And after polling my Instagram audience, the folks were pretty split on which one they liked best, but there was a slight edge to Salamidas. However, I had to get down to the differences between the two. So at the core, these marinades are the same. It's fat, acid, salt, and herbs and spices. And while they don't explicitly list the herbs, to me it definitely tastes like dried oregano, but the big difference between these is the ratio of fat to acid. Lupo's has about 4 times the amount of oil in it, and you can see this when everything has settled in the container. Now, in theory, that increased fat probably emulsifies better, which could yield better browning since there is less water to steam off, but I had to put them to the test. So I chopped up some chicken breast and poured equal amounts of marinade into both before letting them marinate for about 20 hours, skewering them and grilling them over a ripping hot cast iron, and finally giving them a taste test. Definitely both looking pretty good. So let's do a quick comparison here. I've got Lupos here on my left and then Salamidas on the right. So pretty interesting thing going on here when you actually taste these side by side. So I prefer the flavor of Salamidas with the acidity forwardness, a little bit more herbs come through for me, but I actually prefer the texture a lot more with Lupos. And really that's down to the acid versus the fat ratios in the marinades. So vinegar is primarily just water, so that water seeps into the chicken and it kind of tastes watery. And additionally, all that acid it actually does denature some of the protein and muscle cells in there. So it almost gives it like a bordering on mushy feel to it, which not a big fan of. Whereas with Lupos, since that acid is emulsified in the oil, it doesn't separate out, that it doesn't really go to work on any of the muscle fibers or anything, and it's primarily just the exterior. The water is not getting in there either because it's trapped by the fat in the marinade. And that's why I really like the bite of this better. It's just nice and tender, good chunks, good chew to it. And that being said, with my method, I think I've kind of found a way to combine the best of both worlds. Really, really good texture in browning with the acidity of the marinade. So let's walk through it. To start, get out about 2 pounds of chicken breast or thighs and chop them into cubes. And I actually used a pack of chicken tenders, which is that little piece of meat underneath the breast and is ultra tender. Once chopped, set a bowl over a scale and add the chicken and note the weight down. I had about 900 grams. Now add 1% salt by weight, so in this case 900 grams of meat, 9 grams of salt, and mix it together. And what I'm doing here is dry brining the meat in salt, which is one of the key components in a marinade because it actually works inside. This internally seasons the meat through diffusion and will help the chicken retain moisture as it cooks. Now while that dry brine's in the fridge, set a bowl over a scale and add 50 grams of mayo, grate in 4 cloves of garlic, about 20 cranks of black pepper, add a spoonful of dried oregano, and a bit of lemon zest before mixing it together, and this is going to be the mayo marinade that acts as the oil on the outside to cook the chicken. Additionally, we're going to make the vinegar-based Spiedie marinade for use after cooking, which is just adding 50 grams of olive oil, 25 grams of red wine vinegar, little spritz of lemon juice, about 20 cranks of black pepper, some freshly minced parsley, a sprinkle of oregano, pinch of sugar to balance, a pinch of MSG, optional, and salt to taste before mixing it together. And I'm just going to shake this up, and this is going to be stored on the fridge or the counter until it's ready to use, and this will be drizzled on the chicken after cooking. I'll explain why in a bit. So when you're ready to cook, pull the chicken back out of the fridge and add that mayo marinade and coat the chicken before adding it to skewers. Now, since mayo is a sturdy emulsion of just eggs and oil, it has two big benefits over a vinegar-based marinade. First, there's no excess water that needs to be steamed off before browning, and two, the mayo sticks to the meat. Since vinegar is typically at least in 93% water, that must steam off before the browning can start happening. And additionally, since the mayo sticks to the meat, more of those herbs and spices will be left behind after it's done cooking. Once skewered up, add a ripping hot cast iron, just place the skewers down and sear until they have started to brown and char on one side before flipping over. Also, I should note, the mayo is great to help prevent sticking grill grates if you are doing this outside. Once the chicken is browned on all sides, use a thermometer and kind of verify that it's at least around 160 or so before moving these to the side, and we have this beautifully browned chicken. Now, this is good as is, but we are missing one key thing in the Spiedie marinade, and that is the acidity. So this is where I drizzle over the vinaigrette and just rub it all over the chicken. And this is a great bonus too, because those fresh herb flavors, which can kind of get lost when they get cooked, we get it really fresh, and this chicken is now absolutely bursting with flavor. Lastly, let's assemble the Spiedie sandwich. So for my one, I like to get out a hoagie roll, and I'm going to drizzle over some of those juices left over from the chicken right on the bread so that gets soaking in and lubricating. Then I'm going to place some lettuce down, follow that with the skewer of chickens, and of course, you know I had to add some pickled onions over the top. This is one of the greatest grilled chicken sandwiches. So simple. Let's taste test.
All right, everybody, let's dive into the sandwich. I've already eaten 2 skewers worth of just chicken, just because it's really good, but we'll do the proper sandwich now as well. Bigger half for sure.
This is one of those instances where it's a couple of simple ingredients lead to some massive flavors and a very addicting grilled chicken sandwich. I mean, it's the salted chicken with the mayo marinade, all the garlic and the oregano comes through, and it also lets you get that really nice browning, even just like on an indoor stove like this. We don't need to go outside, or if you don't have access to a grill. And then adding this vinaigrette afterwards gives you all that acidity that normally kind of steams off anyway when you do go to cook your chicken. So it gives it a nice fresh bite. You can add it to the sandwich as you eat it, or do it however you want to. But Spiedies, you've got to try them. Do it with chicken, pork, lamb, whatever you want to. Quintessential summer grilled item. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you learned something, definitely drop me a like and subscribe. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace, y'all.